my name is Karsten Witt. I'm the promoter of the concert on the 9th of May at the Berlin Philharmonie. And today I have the privilege to speak to one of the composers who's on the program, Augusta Read Thomas. I'm meeting her at her flat, I suppose, her studio in Chicago, where she's living and where she's teaching at the university. Nice to meet you. Hi, Augusta.
Hi, Karsten. Thank you very much for including me and for including my music.
First of all, the piece itself, Words of the Sea. So I understand it's inspired by a poem by Wallace Stevens, obviously an author whom you like and whose poetry you know very well. Can you explain a little bit the connection between, or the relationship between your piece and this poem?
Yes, thank you for asking. The Wallace Stevens poem, The Idea of Order at Key West, is a very beautiful poem that's rich and long, expansive, and has many layers of meanings. What I tried to do in this composition is just to pull out small fragments from the text and then paint the picture of those texts. So the work is formed in 4 short movements. The shortest is 3 minutes and the longest is 6 minutes, and the other 2 are 4 minutes. So it's just little vignettes, not unlike other works to do with the sea, such as the 4 sea interludes of Britain or La Mer as an example. Now, of course, my work doesn't sound like those works, but the idea of painting pictures of the sea, the words of the sea, is lurking behind this composition.
But did you write the text into the score, or do you expect the conductor, the musicians, your audience to know the poem? What's the relevance of this text?
That's a fantastic question. At the top of each of the 4 movements, the fragment of text that I am painting the picture of is listed. So for instance, on the concert program, it would say Words of the Sea, and then list the 4 text fragments so that people can see what kind of picture it is that I am painting from the poem. So the first movement, at the top of the music, it says Words of the Sea, which are words by Wallace Stevens. And I'm simply painting this picture. What you have in the first movement is a certain kind of dance-like motive that has many components to it. For instance, like a trill, yam. So you've got sort of a trill, then you have a leap, then you have a syncopation, and this starts to build up into these chords, like this kind of thing, and then threading through this very rhythmic universe, you have this line that keeps getting transformed all through different colors until it just rips out at the end of this very short movement with that original theme or line, although at every moment I'm transforming it. It's not just a repeat, it's a sense of something is transforming through this energy flow.
Well, this has obviously something to do with the movement of the sea, yeah?
Yes, Karsten, you're exactly right. Thinking about like the different inner life of the ocean. Sometimes it's very still and quiet and dark, and sometimes it's full of flickering of colors, purples and greens and blues with the sun or the moon reflecting on it. Other times it's full of tumult. Other times it's, just serene and vast. So yeah, just painting different pictures for sure.
This piece was commissioned by Pierre Boulez. He was already, a very famous composer and conductor at the time. He was a real authority. He also was, let's say, quite strict about, what would be a good composition and what would be a bad composition and so on. So what role did it play for you?
Working with Pierre Boulez was one of the highlights of my life for sure. When I first wrote Words of the Sea, I had no idea I was writing it for him. It was a commission from the Chicago Symphony, and I sat down and wrote this huge piece. And I remember rolling it up, printing out my big music pages and rolling them up like this and putting them in this FedEx tube and Federal Expressing them to the Chicago Symphony. And then I received a phone call a few weeks later from the administrator saying that they were going to send it to Mr. Boulez to review with maybe 20 other works. And then I got nervous. I thought, oh no, now he's going to see my piece. But I had no idea that he would even be looking at it when I composed it. And then as it turned out of the 20 pieces he reviewed, he picked one piece, which was Words of the Sea, my work. So I got this phone call saying that he would be doing my piece forthwith. And I was thrilled. And I remember when I first met him, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I was maybe, 30 years old or something. And I went backstage and I said, "Good morning, Mr. Boulez." And he said, "Good morning. We will start with the third movement." And I was just like, "Oh, okay." It was just like, he was so polite. And, but then on the evening of the world premiere of Words of the Sea, he immediately commissioned a second piece, which is called Orbital Beacons. It's a 40-minute piece for large orchestra where I reseated the orchestra into chamber groups and chamber orchestras and soloists. It's a huge, huge piece. I'm very proud of that piece. And then he then premiered Orbital Beacons, and then he took it to Carnegie Hall and various places. And then he commissioned a third piece, which is called In My Sky at Twilight, which is for soprano and 17 players or 16 players, a little ensemble with solo soprano. And then he toured that piece and recorded it. So there were many, many different projects. Then he programmed other works of mine like Helios Choros and so forth. But when I wrote Words of the Sea, it was just me writing my own abstract way without even knowing anything about him possibly conducting it.
I see. So he didn't have much impact on the composition itself, but obviously on the reception of the piece, because he performed it, he recorded it, I suppose, and probably he played it again. Yeah, I mean, Pierre Boulez, when he was convinced of something, he would really be loyal and he would support you. And so he did. Fantastic.
I feel so blessed. I mean, he supported me for so many years with so many different projects and in different cities. And, it's never something I never would ever ask, Mr. Boulez, would you play my music? I would feel like an idiot if I said that, This was all what he wanted to do. Like he had his own mind made up about it. And I was just the very lucky recipient of his generosity, his kindness, his support, and his backing, really. I feel very, very lucky.
I just realized that you're the only living composer on our program. Olivier Messiaen, both Pierre Laurent, Emma, and I have known him, so I can ask him about Messiaen. I suppose that Claude Vivier, we all haven't known. Have you known him?
I did not know him, but I admire his piece Orion. I think it's a very strong piece. It's a personal piece. It's an interesting piece because it has quite some indebtedness to Stravinsky, to be honest, in terms of the local materials and so forth. But I think it's a compelling and strong piece and a wonderful way to end this concert.
In any case, Claude Vivier is one of these composers who I think only became really famous after his death. So at least I have only discovered him too late, unfortunately, to ever meet him. But he also, of course, died very early. And now with George Crumb, that's a little bit different. He died, unfortunately, in February, but he was, I think, 93 or something. Yes, in any case, over 90. Did you actually know him?
I met Mr. Crumb many times, actually, at different master classes and at different sort of academies where we would both be on the board, or it was like in different contexts. And of course, I attended many of his concerts. I heard him give pre-concert lectures. He's a wonderful, wonderful composer, iconoclast in the best sense, very musical. And I think the haunted landscape that you're doing is a very strong piece. It's quite interesting because it's somewhat cinematic. You know, you have like these separate objects, you know, like the low piano notes, and then you have like the symbol, and then you have like these sort of big outbursts, and then the trumpet flare, you know, sort of does all kinds of things. It reminds me a little bit of certain paintings where you have like different objects or something, maybe like Salvador Dali. And like one object is melting and the other object just like pops up out of nowhere. And then another object like sort of comes back when you don't expect it. It's a very kind of unusual form that he builds in the piece, but it works completely, and sort of has a secular nature in some sense in terms of what it's doing. And, you know, it is a haunted landscape. I think it's a very good title for what it is that the material that he's presenting is doing within the form.
Thank you very much, Augusta. Thanks for making us curious. And we are very much looking forward to listening.